Hello and welcome back to the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, episode 66. I'm your host, Jake Burke, and joined only by Ted Libby today. Ted, it's just you and I.
It is. It's a much more intimate show setting.
Excited or disappointed are you right now at this moment?
I mean, I'm very excited because James isn't here, but I'm disappointed that you're here.
Right. I can see the struggle.
I could go either way, yeah.
You would actually like to be on a show that had neither of us on it. You would like two different co-hosts.
Yeah. Oh, man. We just talk about what I want to talk about.
You just can't edit the videos, so that's why you have to use me.
Doing a podcast about Dan Carlin's podcasts. That's just throwing it out there.
Okay.
That's an idea. If you guys like that idea, I'll upload this video. I'll start doing it.
Do you want to call it the Carlin Cast?
Yes, 100%. Okay. That's a great name.
Okay, that's good. Ted, we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. Do you want to know why? Because this is the 66th episode of the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, where every Monday morning a new episode goes live on youtube.com, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Once a week, we sit down and we Discord across 500 miles to talk about a video game-related topic. We're actually talking about 3 different topics, basically what games we've been playing: Axiom Verge 2, Splitgate, and then I also want to talk to you about the Pokemon Legends Arceus trailer that just came out today, literally on the Wednesday.
Is that how you say it? Arceus?
I think it's Arceus. I don't know old, newer Pokemon well, except for Vanillite. And I did do some research, and so far, sadly, Vanillite is not confirmed for this game. Just wanted to put that out there.
Oh, okay. Well, pass that.
But that right. Okay. Let's just talk about Pokemon Legends because we're already kind of briefly mentioning it.
Oh, fine.
I mean, and you just watched the trailer. It's fresh in your mind, Ted.
That's true. It is pretty fresh.
It's pretty fresh. Okay. Pokemon Arceus Legends. Nope. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I hate this name, by the way. I hate this name. Is an open world, Breath of the Wild, basically game. Looks like it. Looks like that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It looks like the Breath of the Wild version of Pokemon, and it takes place a long time ago, where the Pokeballs are made of wood. And everyone's got very traditional Japanese garb on, like what's that era?
I believe there's also mutton chops.
I'm listening.
I believe this is a late 19th century era.
That looks about right. Like, yep.
Yeah, the Total War Fall of the Shogun era.
Yes. Yeah. Is the Shogun era correct? Is that what it's called?
No. This is like 1870s. This is when Japan have its like referendum and redid itself for the Western world.
Right. This is The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
There's white looking dudes with mutton chops and mustaches, but there's also very traditional looking Japanese architecture.
Yes, that would make sense. Yeah. So that's what this game's style is, and then it is an open world, looks to be Pokemon game. New trailer came out today, showed a lot of stuff. What do you think? Just overall, first
new trailer came out 5 days ago.
Is it 5 days ago?
This goes up?
Oh yeah, I guess yeah. When this goes up on Monday, it came out Wednesday.
Yeah. There was that first trailer that was released during the Nintendo Direct.
Yes, it was during the Pokemon Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, and I was like pretty off-put by that.
Me too.
This I'm a little bit more excited about. That being said, It is great that the Pokemon company is doing something that isn't Pokemon the game. Game Freak's Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because that, as we learned with Sword and Shield, needs changing. That was not fun to play the same thing over again.
It was really bad. Okay. And first off, that game just like gave up halfway through, which was super weird. And you could tell like they were bored developing it. It was kind of weird. I don't know if you felt that.
Yeah.
No.
And so this, at least, they're doing something different, which I think is very neat. And it's what the fans are asking for, and that's important. Will it be good is a whole nother question. I'm curious. It looks as though they have mashed some very generic looking open world traits with Pokemon. And on the plus side, that means that there is both this like, in the trailer they showed sneaking up, like a crouch stealth mode, sneaking up on a Pokemon while it's sleeping or not looking, and then throwing a Pokeball at it and like stunning it into capturing it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, neat. And then there was also the classic battle system where like you threw out a Pokemon in front of you and then you picked 4 abilities and it did the thing.
I was really surprised that was in the game. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, cool.
That was a spark of life for me. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's really neat. Will these two ideas mash? Will classic Pokemon and Breath of the Wild connect in a decent way. I have no idea. This trailer still did not sell me on that necessarily, and I'm curious to see how it will turn out.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way that you feel. Is very much like I'm super interested in what it could be, but I don't trust the Pokemon company to make it what I want it to be.
Yeah. I don't know if this is an inspired decision or this is them looking at Twitter long enough and going, well, I guess they want a modern game or something.
The trailer makes the game look very empty, and
Yeah.
that is not the Breath of the Wild thing that I like. I like it in Breath of the Wild that it is kind of empty because that's the world that's supposed to be. This just feels like it's empty because they also have to manage Pokemon running around, and it just feels off. Like the emptiness doesn't feel necessary in the trailers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely has a bit of a strangeness to it,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what this game is necessarily. We don't know what the objective is, because this might be a game in which you have to go out and fill out your Pokedex, and each way to catch a Pokemon is different and unique, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Because the first trailer showed stealth and showed sneaking, and like it might be like more interesting ways to catch Pokemon.
Yeah.
But now there's classic battling in it, so maybe it is just a classic Pokemon of like, go to this town, do this thing, go to this town,
Yeah.
So
How
we
many
don't
gyms
know
do I
how.
have to face here? Is there 8 of
Yeah,
them?
we really don't know what this game is.
Mhm.
So I'm curious about it, but I don't have faith in it. I guess I don't know.
It's
Maybe
coming
that's a
out.
little too cynical, but
Yeah, it's coming out in January too. It's like
January 22nd.
It's like
of
right around the
2020, or
corner.
maybe it's January 2022. I don't remember.
I think it is January 22nd. It might be.
Yeah.
That's my dad's birthday, so it's kind of
Yeah.
that'd be a great birthday present for him. He would love an open world Pokemon game. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by it, but not enough to like. This isn't a game I'm like set to buy now. Like I'll buy this if it's like comes out and everybody's like, this is the best Pokemon game there's been.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try.
Yeah. I wonder if it will be like an open world game for kids, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but I do mean that in a way that it won't satisfy
you.
my needs. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I thought the one kind of cool thing with the trailer was, first off, it looks like your Pokemon can lead you to stuff. There was a moment where I would assume it was her Chimchar with the little fire monkey guy that was like running.
Okay.
I know Chimchar. I'll tell you a funny story about Chimchar.
I recognized Gyarados.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I only know Chimchar, Ted. Here's a fun story for you. Because I was texting Hunter about this today because the Diamond and Pearl remakes are coming out.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Are you gonna get the Diamond and Pearl remix?" And I was like, "No." I played Diamond and Pearl all of, like high school, like 9th and 10th grade or whatever. And we knew this one kid in one of my classes, and there was only one fire type Pokemon in the game that wasn't the starter, and that was Chimchar was the starter, and then Ponyta and Rapidash, the evolution chain, were the only fire types in the whole game. So everybody wanted a Chimchar.
Yeah.
And this kid would breed and sell you a Chimchar.
Hell yeah, dude.
And he
He's
would
making
sell
money.
them for like $10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was badass. I appreciate it.
He's probably a millionaire now.
He probably is. Yeah, he's probably
Yeah,
figured
he
out a
bought
way to...
GameStop at the right time.
Right. And sold it at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm curious kind of about what interactions you can have with your Pokemon outside of the battling, and also I thought it was very cool to see you can ride Pokemon.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool. I thought that was cute.
It was pointed out to me, and I thought this was really interesting. Like, is that going to be a thing where you can ride your Pokemon, or is there one Pokemon that has the ride ability, and that's what we saw in the trailer? Like, is any Pokemon with wings or with the fly ability, I guess if you think of it in classic Pokemon, can it just you put it on your back and you start flying?
Yeah.
Or is it just the one Pokemon that you can fly around on? We don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Huh. Yeah, I'd be pissed if I can't use my Charizard to fly around.
Right, exactly, or something like that. Like, were those set piece moments, or was that just a natural function of the game? Because when you think Breath of the Wild, you think systems that work really well together, and I don't know if this game's going to deliver that.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I think it'll be a Pokemon game that's more open than it's ever been.
Yeah, but they're experimenting clearly by the title. And
this
they
is a
need
new franchise.
Yeah, they need to experiment. So I appreciate that at the very least.
Me too. I hope it's an interesting experiment rather than a dull one. Like you said, I hope it's not just to appease the fans. But yeah, I thought that was the surprise of this morning, was just like, oh, this looks a lot better than I kind of thought it was going to look. So
yeah,
there's potential. Any final thoughts on it? Or
still doesn't look great.
No.
That's the other thing. And I feel bad for even putting these two things together, but it's going to be on the Switch, which is a whole different area of okay, is this going to be good? Is it going to run well?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one who needs it to look good necessarily,
Right.
but like, Breath of the Wild was a release game for the Switch, and it chugged it.
Yeah.
It felt so. Years later, like this, like, is it going to be technically savvy? Can it do the things that I'm hoping it does with the Switch's power? I really don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I don't think you're getting a new Switch anytime soon, so this is what you get.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to get a new one for Breath of the Wild, too. So is that game going to blow up your Switch when you start using it?
I hope so.
That'd be incredible. You have to recall all Switches with Breath of the Wild 2 in them. They just explode.
Think of the disaster.
That would be bad.
They would just recall the game.
Yeah. They would just be like, can't play it. We recommend you don't play it. It's like when PlayStation put up the Cyberpunk 2077 on their store again, and they were like, just no, this doesn't run well. This is your...
I bought a copy of Cyberpunk.
Really?
Yeah.
Like physical?
Yeah, I did it on Sunday. So Best Buy, I guess, had a whole bunch of Steelbook copies. I don't know if you saw this. This was going around the internet for a little bit.
No.
They had a bunch of Steelbook copies that they are now desperate to get rid of. So you can buy a Steelbook copy of Cyberpunk 2077 for the Xbox One or PS5 for whatever it came out.
Because they still have not released the next gen version of this game.
Yeah, whatever it is. $10.
This is a side conversation. Do you think that Cyberpunk is going to be like have like a resurgence again in like a year once?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. I think there is a growing minority of people who legitimately enjoy that game and say it's just a good game. And I believe there's a conversation to be had there once they fix the technical problems.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to check this game out. I want to do like a 1-year anniversary of it because I think when a lot of the technical stuff is fixed, there's a chance that it'll be a good game in there.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that. So I think we will see a resurgence both from the fixing of the technical problems and from that classic back and forth of like if the world says it's shitty enough, there's going to become a following of people who say they love it.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for it. It's going to go right up there next to Days Gone, and I'm excited.
You played Days Gone?
No.
No, me neither. Second question.
I'll get it $10 from.
It's free if you have a PS5.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Cyberpunk on PC, are there still like technical problems on PC, or is that pretty sorted out?
Sure. No, it's definitely not sorted out. I know patch 1.3 came out. That. And from what generally speaking, from what I understand, it's getting there.
Okay, that was kind of interesting.
I know the glitches and the bugs are sort of becoming more relegated to the specifics, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But that being said, you can still there are still the classic like your car can explode, but then you drive around in it like it's just fine and just stuff like that.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Like everybody in the room just dying all of a sudden out of nowhere. That happened to me once.
Yeah. Also, apparently, they have taken a lot of the nudity and sexual content out of the game.
Well, then why even play it?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the weird thing is that like part of that world and the story that they are trying to tell has to do with a hyper commodified, sexualized world.
Yeah. That's
and so the fact that they took some of it out is like seems to be going against their story decisions. Again, I will have more to say on that when I play the game in a fixed state.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that, where Cyberpunk was at. I don't think I'll ever touch it again because it's been hard enough for me to play an RPG right now with a bunch of new stuff coming out. So,
Right.
Am I going to really dive back into that? Nah, I'm good. Ted, I want to talk to you about what you've been playing. Me? Because I've been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, Like a Fiend, and it's probably becoming a problem, and I should probably stop.
That's true. You did text me multiple times this week saying, hey, I can't play the game we're going to play this week because I'm playing Like a Dragon.
I couldn't stop.
Shame on you, by the way. He's bad at his job.
I couldn't stop. I now understand addiction, and I couldn't stop. Okay, well, before we talk about Axiom Verge, I want to talk to you about something that happened to me last night while I was trying to play Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Okay.
Okay, so I went to play it on my Xbox, and through Game Pass, boot up the game, and like starts to boot up, and then like a warning thing comes up, and it's like Xbox service error, like cannot launch content. Please try again in a few minutes. Here's your server code or whatever, or your error code. Then try it again in like a few minutes. Okay, I go for like 30 minutes, try it again. Then I go online. Last night, Xbox, you couldn't launch content for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I never thought about like all this stuff online. Like Game Pass makes sense. But then I was reading about people that like own games.
Yep.
And they couldn't launch them.
Well, and to parry this into the Steam Deck, I mean, Steam operates the same way. Steam and Steam games require an internet connection to run.
Even if
In
you're
a lot of
offline?
well, that's the thing is Steam offers an online mode specifically to fix a lot of those problems. That's why you have to basically close and restart
And then
Steam when you
start it
click
in
that
offline,
offline
yeah.
mode so that it
Okay.
can pretend to be in an offline state. Um,
Hmm.
Games are connected to the internet now, and when
Yeah.
their servers go down, it's pretty catastrophic.
That's crazy. Yeah, I just never had that issue where like I
Yeah.
looked up the issue and it was like we had an Xbox service like the Twitter was like responding. It was like we've now isolated the issue to launching content, and I was like, so what else does your system do? Like that's like a big ass thing to do. We figured out the issue. You can't play games.
Yeah.
It's like wow. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it'd be silly to think that games of this size can fit on a disc. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
You're fooling yourself if you think that you can buy a package with one disc. Do you remember when you had to install multiple discs?
Yeah, Mass Effect 2 had 2 discs, and you would,
I grew up with a computer. There was an era where I was putting disc 6 and 7 into the computer before
I never
could
did that.
play.
But I remember playing games on disc. Like Mass Effect 2 had 2 discs, and certain planets you would land on would say like, "Please insert disc 2."
Yeah.
And I know that Red Dead on the Xbox had that, but not on PS3 where I played it. That's crazy to me too, is the 2 disc thing. I mean, wasn't Final Fantasy 7 was on like 4 discs or something?
I don't even remember that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, side conversation again. But okay, Axiom Verge 2,
Yep.
made by Tom Happ.
Yep.
He's back at it.
Thomas Happ?
Tom Happ. Maybe I'm just on a personal first name basis with him. It's fine. I got a nickname. Sometimes I call him Tommy Happ.
Yes, Thomas Happ.
Thomas Happ. One-man development team.
Made a sequel. I actually don't know if this was a one-man team, but I'm going to assume it was because the first one was.
Yeah.
His company is called Thomas Happ LLC.
Yeah. So what? Okay, so I've played about probably an hour of this game. You say you've played probably half of it?
Yes, I believe I am at the halfway point exactly.
And you've beaten the first Axiom Verge? Or at least played enough of it?
I have not. I have played it many times. I'm trying to think if I actually beat it. I played that game in a fugue state as it's meant to be played multiple times.
Yeah, I have beaten it and I've watched someone else beat it, I think. Or I watched someone else beat it, but I played most of it.
Right.
Can't recall.
But this game's different.
Yes, it's very different from just the hour that I played.
It's very different. So Axiom Verge 1, for those of you who don't know, was a Metroidvania, and for purposes I will get into later, it was very much on the Metroid side of Metroidvania.
I was gonna say,
you had a gun, you shot it in different directions. That gun was very important to how you played the game in a lot of ways. And generally speaking, Axiom Verge was an acid trip. A way to describe it would be like if you dropped acid and then I described the storyline of the movie Tron to you. That's the way it was described to me, and I was like, yeah, that fits. It reminds me of if you got sucked into a computer, but your computer was moldy. It's really very visceral. The soundtrack to it is absolutely incredible. Legitimately,
Can I ask a question? You may remember this, you may not. Was the first Axiom Verge, I almost called it Acid Verge. Was it Axiom Verge? Was it chiptunes kind of sound like? Because it's all pixel art, like 16-bit. Was it chiptunes or no? Because the new one's not.
No. It was electronically synthesized music, but it was not. I mean, chiptunes means that you're faking that obstruction of a chiptune set. That you only had a certain number of notes and you had to manipulate those. It was not that. It sounded like it, but it was not.
Yeah, because Shovel Knight was, if I recall correctly, I think Shovel Knight was.
I don't remember. I know that other game that we discussed was not, but it was made to sound like it, but it was not. Axiom Verge 1 is an incredible game. And I think a game people should still play.
I agree.
Go play Axiom Verge 1. It's a very good game.
All right, Axiom
Verge 2 is the sequel. Very much leaning on the Vania side of Metroidvania games. And this is where I got lost because I never played Castlevania before in my life. So this was very different to me, which was a little bit refreshing. The story to this game is incomprehensible, straight up. The story in the first game was also incomprehensible, but that was kind of the point. The story in the first game was you're a scientist who gets sucked into something, another world, and it's an acid trip in a computer.
I am listening. Cat's meowing.
Yeah. Axiom Verge 2, it feels like is trying to build out that story a whole bunch. It starts you off with a whole bunch of dialogue that I did not want to read about corporations in the future and how you play as some kind of CEO. And I think you play as the CEO of the company that the scientist in the first game was associated with. And you are a CEO basically going to the site of where the first game took place to see what happened and to find your daughter. Something like that.
Something like that. That's kind of where I got to.
Yeah. And
yeah,
and at some point things happen. Your character gets teleported to another world, similar to the first game. This game, where the first one felt like an acid trip, this feels much more grounded in reality, which kind of makes it boring.
I thought it was pretty dull. Like from the hour that I played, it was like, this is like really dull compared to 1. Like just the style and the aesthetic and
emphasis on the relativity to 1.
Yeah,
it feels normal. You pop out into the other world and there's grass. You know what I mean? Like, and it feels, and there's a mountain.
Yeah, like I'm fighting on a waterfall and stuff. Like
it doesn't really change too much from there. But I actually have come to really like it.
Can I ask a question? We talked about guns in the first one. Do you get guns in this? Because where I have played, you only have a melee weapon.
You get a melee weapon. You get actually a lot of weapons, and I have not really gotten the full arsenal. But you get a ranged weapon, you get a melee weapon, and I have started to get other melee weapons and other ranged weapons. So I think it will change.
Gotcha.
Did you play the first one?
Yep.
There was a really cool bit in the first game, and I'm going to spoil it, but it's a big part of this game. You get a drone. It's kind of the morph ball equivalent, and this game focuses very heavily on the drone.
Yep.
And it actually ends up being really cool. I really like the drone.
I have not gotten to the drone, so that shows you where I am in the game.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, no, this game feels very much grounded in reality. You show up in this other world. There are other people to talk to that other scientists are like, yeah, we came here too. Which is kind of weird. And so this game has a lot less to do with killing and shooting and a much more to do with just exploring. It was actually, a lot of people wrote it as a negative in a lot of the reviews I saw of like, you can skip bosses. You don't have to stay and fight bosses. You can just run past them to the next area and keep exploring.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so this game is focusing on the exploration and the map as being a giant puzzle. You know, it's getting to the core of a Metroidvania to the expense of a lot of the things that people find fun about a video game.
Speaking of the map, just you mentioned the map. Your actual map when you pull it up. One of the coolest things this game does that I don't even think I've seen ever in a game of a Metroidvania is the mini-map is a smaller version of the actual level that you're playing. And so you can see like, that's where this waterfall is. Okay, I got to get here instead of like, it's a green block room.
Yep.
You know, like that was really cool to me. I was like, oh, cool. I kind of...
Yeah, and actually the map I'm really loving. And I've kind of learned to love the map, the setting, and the soundtrack. It's very earthy. It's much more grounded in reality. It's got a lot of what to me sounds like much more Middle Eastern influences. It's almost got like a music of the world vibe to it, which it just makes me feel like I'm playing a game in the early 2000s at my mom's house. It's great. It's just generally much more chill, and this game is about exploring the map and finding a new power and going, oh, I can do this now. I should probably look around to see what else I can do. The other cool thing that I really like that you clearly have not gotten to, but I'll spoil it for you.
That's okay.
There's a second map overlaid over the first map.
I've heard there's another dimension.
Yeah, so you use that drone to pop into another dimension. What's very cool is that other dimension is a 16-bit dimension with 16-bit music. And it's much more vibey, and it's much less atmospheric and much more like, I don't know, like a NES game. The beats are faster. It's much more like a video game. And the cool thing is the maps are 1-for-1.
Oh.
So I am at the point now where I'm like strategizing, like, oh, if I pop into this dimension and then do this part of the map and then pop out over here, that's how I get to this part of the map.
So that becomes a lot of the puzzle base of.
Yeah, and so that's
Okay.
what this game is. This game is a map-sized puzzle that you are just solving as you go. And in terms of Metroidvania, being that exploration, I think it's great. I have played this game for 6 hours.
Okay.
I think it's going to be about an 8 to 10 hour experience.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
and it wasn't until my 5.5 hours where I got to a point where I was finally like, okay, hold on, now I need to stop and think about it. The world does a really good job of just guiding you to where you need to go, and because you're not gated by anything, you're not gated by bosses or monsters, you can just be like, well, I'm just going to run past this boss and just explore for a bit and see what happens. And then you finally get to an environmental block and you're like, oh, I clearly can't get here because this is Metroidvania.
Yeah.
I now know that. I'm going to go somewhere else. And wandering around and putting those pieces together, I think, is very well done.
Wow. So you're actually in on this.
I am in on it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as strong as the first game, but I appreciate what this game is doing a whole bunch. And I think it is, for someone like me who has never played Castlevania, really, I mean, I played Castlevania 3 on an emulator and was confused and scared. It's the best introduction to a Vania game, if you will.
Okay.
And I really appreciate it for that. I am now excited to play other Vania games as opposed to discouraged.
You got to play Symphony of the Night then.
Yep.
That's where you got to go.
I just found out it is available on Xbox.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's on Xbox 360 and they were able to back compat it, even though Konami has not put it out.
Well, no, they did. There's Konami has put out a PS4, PS5 version of it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, there's like it's a dual pack with Symphony of the Night and another Castlevania game.
Yeah, because I was like, their Konami Castlevania pack does not include Symphony of the Night.
No. Yeah. But they have it on PS5 and
okay,
PS4.
Good. Yeah, so I can buy it as an Xbox 360.
That's so funny. So would you recommend this to someone that has just played like a few Metroidvanias?
Yes. Yes, because it's very easy to grasp.
Okay.
And as long as you are able to change your preconceptions about a video game, if you're able to see a boss and go, I don't need to stand here and fight it and beat my head against the wall, I can just run past it, then yes, I think it's a very fun game, and it's very good at, well, teaching you the exploration parts of a Metroidvania.
Okay.
That being said, though, you know, like a Metroidvania, if you get lost, if you bounce off, you're going to bounce off of this just as hard. The story continues to be incomprehensible, and I think my final thoughts on it are that Axiom Verge 1 was a better experience, just in terms of like, yo, dude, you gotta try, you gotta smoke this.
Game.
Just yeah. Right.
You say you gotta smoke this.
Yeah. It.
That's what it feels like.
Axiom Verge 1, yeah, it truly hits you in the face in a really cool way, and is a really good Metroidvania. This is just a good Metroidvania.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I was getting from it from the beginning. Was like, this is probably a pretty good game. I'm not super into what it's doing aesthetic wise, and that's what Axiom Verge was to me. Was like,
yeah, right. Axiom Verge was all
it had a
about
vibe,
aesthetics.
and this game does not.
It really did.
Yeah.
It
in my
falls into a vibe eventually, but that vibe is much more of like a chill afternoon, a partly cloudy afternoon, as opposed to an acid trip. It's much more light and breezy, and I think the first one just did a better job at being what it was. I really don't appreciate this story simply because it feels like they're ham-fisting it. The first game did not give you a story, and it was great because you were just confused.
Literally, and so was the main character. That was the whole point. Was he's like, "Why am I here?" They're like, "We don't know."
Yeah. Like literally, I was playing Axiom Verge 1, looking at the minimap, going like, "Is this your brain? Are you going around different parts of your brain right now? Is that what this is?" Like I was just balls to the wall, just like total, cinephile. Like, what's it mean? What's it mean? They're throwing so many little notes and so many references to the first that I'm like, it doesn't land. It's trying to realize a world that doesn't need to be realized, I guess.
Yeah. Did we need a sequel to Axiom Verge?
Yeah, I honestly think, and I was thinking about this a couple days ago, I think this may have even been a better game if it was not called Axiom Verge 2.
Do you think it was at one point, or do you think it was always Axiom Verge 2?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think that what Thomas Happ made here is very good. I would bet that at some point somebody told him, or he came to the conclusion that I can't sell another game the way I did if I don't call this Axiom Verge 2.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, it's out. I'm sure I'll play more of it. I'm definitely going to give it another shot later in the year.
I really liked it. It's a partially cloudy afternoon kind of game.
Perfect. Sometimes this is perfect. That's where we are right now in the year. It's a light year. Who knows what game of the year is going to be, But you get to play Axiom Verge 2.
Little side note. I forgot to mention this earlier. They let you know how you ever play a Metroidvania game and you're just kind of upset they don't just let you do the thing you want to do? You ever kind of run into that feeling? This game knows that and just lets you do the thing you want to do. So really early on in the game, you can just basically teleport around the entire map. And you don't have to backtrack. Like he made it super easy to just, I think I'm gonna go check out over there and see what's over there, and then just like that, you're over there, and you're like, well, that wasn't the right way. I guess I'll go back, and that part is really nice.
That's nice. Yeah, because that was like, I loved Hollow Knight this year playing it when I played it, but I was like, the one part was like, shit, I got to get all the way down there for this side thing, and it's like, okay, I'll do it. Well, interesting. I'm excited to play more. I'm definitely excited to try it out and see what it is. There's a lot of great games coming out soon too.
Yeah, so people, this has gone down in history at this point as a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And it's very curious to me how people kind of are saying, kind of in that, you talk about Hollow Knight, they were saying like, I didn't find this challenging. This wasn't, the bosses were easy. I think IGN's article said that was basically like, I didn't like it because the bosses were easy. And I was like, okay, maybe that's not what the point of this game is. Maybe this is not a action platformer. Maybe this is just an exploration game. And if you go into it knowing that, I think it's a lot of fun.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting too with a lot of Metroidvanias now coming out, or like that have come out in the last few years. It's tough to come into that genre and do something different, new, and exciting now because it's so saturated. So
and I actually think this game is doing something different. Just it's being exploration based. It's being the Vania side of things, which
doesn't get often.
Is new to me for sure. I think maybe if this was my 6th Vania Metroidvania game, I would be bored as hell. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, I want to talk to you about one really quick thing before we end. I want to talk to you about Splitgate because I've played Splitgate now.
Oh yeah, I have a. You know what really grinds my gears?
What really grinds your gears, Ted?
We'll get into it. Tell me how Splitgate was.
I've enjoyed it. Splitgate's really fun. It is Portal meets Halo, and it is unabashedly that. And
it's a pretty good descriptor, isn't it?
No, Ted, that is the only way to describe this game. It is.
It's so good at both of them.
It's literally just Halo. Like playing it, I was like, it's just Halo with portals. Like they didn't even like hide it. There's a gun just called the battle rifle.
Yep.
Like, and it looks exactly like the battle rifle.
Yep.
I'm like kind of amazed they got away with it. Like it's just so Halo. I think it's really fun. I think it's pretty unique because of the portals. The gunplay doesn't do anything interesting in my opinion, except that you can shoot through a portal. Like for me, it is Halo, and I would rather play Halo, but there's portals here.
Yeah.
And this is a great appetizer for when Halo Infinite comes out. And I think I texted you that. I was like, this just makes me want to play Halo Infinite, and the minute that comes out, I won't touch this game again.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited we're going to play in a little bit. So I'm excited to like play with a bunch of people and stuff too. But it's just, I think it's really great. I think it's awesome this game is free.
Yeah.
But once Halo comes out, this game, I think, is in like big trouble.
I wonder. And I do think that it will be in big trouble because you're right. It's not doing anything that
And Halo is free as well. So like it doesn't even have that against it.
No, I'm with you. It's Halo plus portals. But I really like the feel of it. It's snappy.
Yes.
That's kind of what as I go back to it, I realize kind of how slow. And I was watching some old Halo videos.
Oh yeah.
I realized how kind of slow and sluggish Halo feels, and this does not have any of that, and that feels so good.
And apparently, Infinite doesn't have that either. Like apparently, that's what from the tech stuff that's come out is like, Infinite's fast.
Yeah. I think they knew that. They knew they needed to update themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so it's great. I recommend anyone try out Splitgate because it's on everything. It's free and it's.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Developers are Lake Tahoe based for all you California people.
Yep.
They're
30
on the
people.
Nevada side. Yeah.
Yeah. And
they're like their moms.
They're at their moms that you said?
They like their moms.
Oh, they like their moms. That's good.
They copied us. They shouted out their moms.
By the way, there's a man or a woman or a person that follows our podcast name, and I think their name is Foreign User, or they're a foreign user, but I think that's their name. And they always post a comment. And last week they said this one's for the moms on last week's show, and I was like, this guy gets it. We got a fan.
Well, yeah. Well, they'd also be a fan of Splitgate because they would like their moms.
They like their moms too.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm with you. I don't know where they go from here. Because they are just Halo, and I don't know what they need to differentiate themselves. My first thought would be they need to bump up their art department and get better looking stuff in there. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not bad, but it looks like they were on a budget.
Yeah.
But also, like, why would you do that when you need to differentiate yourself from Halo?
Yeah, and like the characters look like Spartans. Like it's just like very Halo to, I think, where if this came out 3 years ago fully, it would be a huge hit. And I know it's already a huge hit, so I'm not saying that, but like I'm saying with like longevity. Where I think the fact that Halo Infinite comes out, and hey, maybe Halo Infinite comes out and it's terrible.
Yeah.
And this game runs away with it. From what everyone's saying about the multiplayer they've played, it's not terrible. It's very fun. Yeah. So that's where I'm kind of interested to see where the studio kind of, how they kind of combat Halo coming out. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, and this kind of leads me to what makes me upset.
Yeah.
I recently found out that this game has a fake multiplayer component.
Yes.
And I want to discuss this because
I texted you on Sunday and I was like, dude, Splitgate's easy. Okay. I'm dropping 25 kills a game. I'm outscoring everybody by a mile. I am the gold player every time.
Yeah.
And then you were like, yeah, you're playing against bots.
So that's what everybody says. I have played this game. I have touted to the halls.
Yeah, sure.
I have heard people. Yeah. You've
hall touted.
I've hall touted. I've sung praises. I've listened to podcasts. Every single person comes away with their first impressions like, dude, I'm really freaking good at Halo. I forgot how good I was. That's how I felt. That's how my roommate felt.
Well, now we know it's true because Ted always gets third in Halo.
Oh my God, shut up. End this podcast now.
We're about to.
No, everybody has a first impression of like, dude, I'm really fucking good at this. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe a bunch of newbies are playing. I'm really good. I recently found out your first few games are with bots. And then and when I say bots, I mean bots are the enemy. It's kind of a co-op versus AI.
Okay.
And then they slowly start to integrate you into real people, but they don't ever tell you. And so bots have gotten good enough to where they can fake being a bad player, and they just slap a username on there, and it's and a fake skin, and then you can't tell the difference.
That's crazy.
And as on the one hand, it's nerve-wracking to me. You know what I mean? Like,
robots.
How do I know if I'm playing a real multiplayer game? That's kind of weird. Should you disclose that? But on the other hand, it was a great onboarding experience for me because I felt like I was killing it, and now I know how to play the game, and I'm playing with real people now, and it's tougher, and I'm not doing as well, but I feel very confident in my abilities.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to see how I do against real people in this game because I guess maybe I haven't played many real people.
You probably have, but there are more bots than you might think.
And that makes sense. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's very exciting. I mean, it's an interesting idea to get you in, like, the dopamine hit of enjoying a game because you're good at it.
Right.
Like, we've just started playing Warzone with one of my friends that's never played it, and Parker, who lives on the East Coast. And like, I can tell that there are times where like it's just so fucking overwhelming. Yeah. And it's like, because we're all like trying to kind of win, and he's like, "What's this gun do? What does this box do?" And I'm like, "Nah, fuck! Like, we gotta really explain stuff to you." So it's cool that they get this like easy onboarding thing.
I'm curious about it, but I'm really nervous about the future of multiplayer, especially in this world now where we're getting video games down to the silence of dopamine hits. Like, it's sketchy to me.
It's the Call Me Maybe of video games.
Hey, that's a great song. I don't know.
That song was designed by like these like beat scientists for your brain.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. Beat scientists.
That's true. I think that's what they're called. Uh-huh. They're not the science of the fruit or vegetable beets, but beets.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with Beats by Dre.
Yeah, that's a different brand. You're gonna get a cease and desist.
Dr. Dre's gonna kick open the door.
Yeah.
Do you know he has an honorary PhD? So he's an actual doctor?
Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him, yeah.
Does an honorary PhD make you a real doctor?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, episode 66. My name's Jake. That's Ted. James wasn't here today, but he will be here next week. We are all going to be talking about 12 minutes next week. So if you want to play along with us, please do. It's out tomorrow, or it'll be out in your timeline already. Because that's how timelines work. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.
Bye.